Have you ever talked about what happened with your brother that passed away?
I felt so guilty turning 17 because he did not get to live longer than that.
Do you think that your brother losing his identical twin, is that what triggered the schizophrenia, or were there signs of this before?
It's directly correlated. I found him passed out in front of targets after overdoses, but we're basically all one traumatic event away from losing our minds. I think so many of our societal ills would be healed by people realizing that their life is not determined by, the consequences of their childhood or their parents or their current circumstances.
She was recognized in the New York Times this year as one of the top conservative voices young people are listening to online. Of course, I'm talking about the charismatic Gen Z Daily Wire host of the comment section, Brett Cooper, who on YouTube has a cult following of more than 4 million subscribers with her upbeat and countercultural opinions on current news and cultural phenomena. You also know her from the Daily Wire Plus animated sitcom Mr. Bircham, and she is starring in the upcoming historical fantasy series The Pendragon Cycle, as well as playing Snow White in Snow White and the Evil Queen in the first feature-length production for Bentkey, the Daily Wire's children's entertainment platform. Brett has done several high-profile interviews about her life as a child actor and working for the Daily Wire, so while we do touch on those things, it was important for me to ask some questions she doesn't get asked a lot, like the inner workings of the wardrobe department at Daily Wire, to her brother's death and other brothers' battle with schizophrenia and its subsequent effects on her family. We also talk about avoiding being the forever girlfriend, what's in her purse currently, and why she loves beef tallow for the face. You can watch this interview on the Real Alex Clark YouTube channel or Culture Apothecary on Spotify, which has video now, and of course, anywhere you get your podcasts. Twice a week, a new guest brings their own unique remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, mentally, or spiritually. We are completely donor funded, so if you believe in our mission, consider becoming a financial supporter of the show with a tax-deductible donation with the link in the show notes. If you love the show, pausing right now and leaving a 5-star review for free also really helps. If a crunchy, cute conservative in your life needs a Christmas gift, show merch is available on tpusamerch.com, and you can get 10% off with code AlexClark. You're welcome. Please welcome host of the comment section, Brett Cooper, to Culture Apothecary. We both got our color analysis done this year, and we're both winters.
Yes.
So I have to know how much of your wardrobe you have changed. Like, how committed have you become?
I don't think I am fully committed. It definitely now impacts like day-to-day decisions when I'm buying things, but I didn't go through and do like a whole closet clean out. And my husband, Alex, he thinks that so much of this is bogus. Like, I'm now putting on things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be wearing white. I should not be wearing cream. But like, his favorite shirt that I have is beige. I'm like, but it washes me out. Like, I look terrible in beige. But he's like, no, like, she's totally wrong, whatever. So he's not bought into it. So as a result, because there are things that like he loves that I wear, I have not like cleaned the whole thing out. At work, though, we definitely have been like more conscious of it now, and we're like picking things based on that. And I like brought it back to the whole wardrobe team, and I was like, this is what we need to be buying.
Well, that's so funny you bring that up, because that's exactly what I was going to ask. I feel like it has changed my life. I am fully committed.
Okay.
I have switched all my jewelry to silver, because you and I have the same rules we're supposed to adhere to. Switched all of my bags, my
I see
belts.
the pink, all of it.
Yeah. Like, I have like my nail color always. I switched my makeup. So I was wondering what all you did. Like, did you share the results with your makeup artist and say like, this is what I should be doing?
I did a little bit. The one thing that I can't commit to in makeup is a brighter lip. Have you seen the new thing on TikTok where it's like, are you a high or low contrast?
No.
Okay, you should do that next. I haven't done it yet, but it's like figuring out like on your face, like whether you should be like eye dominant or lip dominant. I do not think I can pull off like brighter lips. So when she put on like the hot pink lip, I was like, ooh, no. Like, I see that the pink works, but I'm just like, this feels like too much on my face. So I haven't implemented that, but definitely like I used to only do like peach coral nails, peach on my face.
Oh, I did peach blush.
Everything. Yeah. And so now I've completely changed all of that. Like I look like a bubblegum like fairy princess whenever I put on like too much blush now.
I'm using all these different makeup artists if I'm filming somewhere else or whatever, which I know you do the same thing. But the cup, there's like 3 items I always bring. My foundation, I have a primer that I specifically like, and then my blush color. And the blush that I think looks so good on the winters is Tarte Blushing Bride.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a purple, mauvey pink. And anyway, this is like my jam. So I always bring that with me. I got to visit the Daily Wire headquarters for the first time this year. And by far, the most fascinating thing on this entire tour to me was the wardrobe department, specifically your racks.
Yeah.
I had 10 million questions about this, and the guy leading the tour said like, well, we've never had this many questions about wardrobe, and I didn't get all of them answered.
Okay.
So I'm going to run through all of these.
Let's do it.
One thing that they said is that you guys buy your wardrobe for a set amount of time and then you switch it out. What is the time duration the clothes are for, and then how often do you switch them out?
I would say probably 6 months, but it's not like we hit 6 months, they're all thrown out, there's a whole new one. It's always like, all right, we're going to start implementing new things. So I still have a few pieces of clothing on my racks that I've had from year 1 of the show because I love that jacket. I love the shirt. It goes under anything. So we keep those things. But like, especially with the changing seasons, we'll rotate things in and out. I would even say it's more like a rotation than just like we're getting things out. So there are definitely certain pieces that it's like in the summer, like I won't see these for 6 months, but we'll bring something back that again, I've had for 2 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. But yeah, I would say about 6 months ago, they start adding new things in, and then we kind of do it like an assessment. My producer will come in with me and we'll like sit down with the wardrobe team. We'll go, okay, is this like fitting where Brett's at right now? Do we want to like change this? We did a big set redesign in December, January of last year. Well, they had it done by the time I came back from Budapest. So we like launched it in January. And so with this new set, we're like, should we do new clothing? Do we want anything to change? So it's like definitely a revolving conversation.
Yeah. So do you guys sit and think about what's going on in your personal life, and should your clothing reflect that?
Not really.
Like when you got married, were you like, her look should change a little bit because she's now married? Like,
I
was
think
there stuff
was like
that?
Already sort of happening. It wasn't like, okay, now I need to dress this way. Like I think when we started the show, I was definitely like, I want to be more casual. I want to be in hoodies. I want to be comfortable. And then as the show grew and I think I matured and then the show kind of started evolving with me, then I was like, okay, I think maybe like, let's throw in some blouses. Let's try something new like that. I got like a call from my mom. Gosh, this was maybe like 9 months into me doing the show. And there was one hoodie that she hated that I always wore. And she finally just lost it. And she called me and she was like, this makes you look so ugly. You need to take it off. Like you're just slumping and you look whatever. And I was like, okay. So I think at that point we're like, maybe it's not translating how I want it to on camera. Because in my mind, I was like, I'm casual, I'm comfortable. This is just Brett. But on camera, I was like, all right, you have this really beautiful set now. You have amazing cameras. You have this amazing team that's doing this incredible lighting. And you're sitting here in like a Target like sweatshirt and making you look schlumped.
See, we're going through a set redesign. We're going to make a permanent like Culture Apothecary themed set for my show for the first time. I've never had that. We're doing that. And even the set itself, I took into consideration my colors.
That's
that's
great.
how like psycho I am about this. So do you sit with the stylist and you choose what you want? Like you guys are just like looking on Revolve and you're like, I like this. Or are they choosing everything for you and it's kind of a surprise they're presenting to you? Here's what we're thinking.
It is usually like we'll come in with a Pinterest board and we'll be like, all right, this is kind of the style that we want. And we'll do that for shoots as well. So it's like, hey, we need to do a shoot for X, Y, and Z. Or Brett's going to do this podcast. We'll send like, hey, we like this style, this vibe. They will bring in a few different things. Or it's like, we have this premiere and I want to dress this way. This is kind of the color that I want. And they'll go, okay, they go out into the world, as they say. My wardrobe stylist, his name is Kristen. She's like, all right, I'll go see what the world has. So she like goes out and she, picks a bunch of things and buys them and then brings them in. And then we usually do like a day where we try things on. If they're doing a big like integration of new things, we'll set aside like 4 hours basically, and I'll go through and I'll try everything on. Do we like this? How would we layer this with this? Does this work with other things that you have? And then there's also days where I'm just, I come in and I'm wearing something that I really love. Like I just bought a new shirt in my personal life. I'm like, no, I want to wear this today. So they're very receptive to that. So it isn't just like they're picking out everything.
Do you have to tell them in advance, I'm coming in wearing my own thing today?
No, I'll
You
just show up. And I like stick my head in. I'm like, hey, I'm fine. They're like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they on call or they only show up whenever?
Oh, no,
they're always there?
They're always there because they're there for all of us. And they're
Okay.
like primping and.
So is it you because you're the girl that's the most high maintenance and demanding with the style?
Oh, no, I'm definitely not the most high maintenance. I actually think the guys take a lot more than I do, which is so funny. I think that me coming in required them to, expand their horizons in a way because they were all focused, like it was so male dominant for so many years. And so that forced them to think like a little bit differently. And we had to, I think it was more creative for them because they're like, okay, finally, we're not doing something that's just, suits and suits and suits. In general, I actually think because I'm pretty laid back with what I wear. Like if they throw something out, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll put it on. But I think the guys, especially because they do more events, like public facing events, that it's like they're always dressing them. They're always doing that kind of thing. I'll often like pack for myself at home if I'm going on a work trip because I like know like my jeans. The majority of things that they pull for me are tops. I have very specific jeans that I love and pants I love, so I'll come in wearing those pants.
Okay, tell us the jeans, the best jeans.
Abercrombie.
Really?
Yes.
Is there a specific one?
The Curve Love.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you've actually got a butt and I don't. So I don't know what that's like.
But it literally is the only jean that I have found that like hits the waist, doesn't like buckle in the back,
no, we
and
love
doesn't
this.
stretch. Because the thing, like, I love Madewell, but I feel like 4 months into wearing them, they're like falling off of me and they've like shrunk in weird places. Abercrombie does not stretch. They feel like Levi's, but they actually fit me the way that like old school Levi's did. Like new Levi's just don't fit me the way if I like find a great vintage pair at like Goodwill. Those are great.
No, I think Abercrombie and Fitch is phenomenal.
They're great.
I've been telling everybody, they've completely changed. Like they used to have weird rules, like we don't allow black clothing, like navy was the darkest color. They only had a certain amount of sizes, all this. And they've totally expanded and redone everything. I think they're such a great quality for the price.
Yes.
I think that they are just as good of quality as Madewell stuff a lot of times,
for sure.
and a little less expensive.
And Aritzia. Like honestly,
oh my gosh.
I'll go to Aritzia and I see something that is like $300 and I go to Abercrombie and I'm like, okay, I can get this for $175, $120. Whatever.
For cute workwear and stuff.
And again, the sizing, it actually like I can never fit in Aritzia pants. Like they just don't, like they never fit me. If you have any kind of thighs, butt, whatever, does not fit.
Okay, so they're mostly doing tops, I'm assuming dresses.
Yes, yeah,
okay,
for sure.
so tell me about what happens to the clothes when you're finished with them, because here's my theory. Is there a secret Poshmark or eBay that is actually Brett Cooper set clothes and people don't even realize they're buying from you?
I actually have no idea.
You don't know what happens to them?
I don't.
Are you allowed to check them out and you're allowed to take these and wear this stuff in your personal life?
The only time that I did that was when I went to Budapest. And so I was there for work and I went for 5 months. And they basically, since they were sending me there, putting me up in an apartment there, I brought a bunch of personal things and casual stuff, but they basically packed me for, Hungarian winter, shooting comment section. If you're going to take any like street style photos, if you're going to do any like, we used to do these like off the clock videos, if you're going to do any interviews, whatever, we want to make sure that you're totally, totally set.
Yeah.
And so I wore a lot of those clothes in my personal life because I couldn't bring my entire wardrobe. So in my mind, it didn't make sense for me to bring, okay, here's like Brett's normal clothes and here's her on-set clothes. And so they kind of all got mixed together. But in general, they're pretty separate just because those are things that they're buying. They keep very clean. Everything is dry cleaned. I don't dry clean anything in my personal life, but everything like in the wardrobe department is like pressed and perfect.
So favorite brands right now that a lot of your wardrobe is coming from?
Aritzia is definitely... just because they're great basics. We do get a lot of Madewell tops, even though I don't love their jeans. Here's another thing. I love knits. I'm a sucker for a knit. If there is a knit tank top or a crochet tank top, it is like, I have about 15,000 of them.
Yeah, that does seem very you.
I love them. If it's like lots of color, textures, I'm big on texture.
And favorite decade of fashion?
70s.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Okay, so my husband and I were Dr. Evil and Frau Verbizna from Austin Powers for Halloween just a couple of days ago. And it's so funny because Alex always says that if I could dress like I was a character in Austin Powers, that would be his favorite thing. Because I always wear like fun little colorful dresses and these big boots.
So he's into it.
He's like total about it, and it's his favorite comedy, which is so funny. I was like, you want me to dress like I'm in Austin Powers? He's like, yes. But yeah, I love the 70s style. And when I go to events and that kind of thing, I love Staud dresses.
Me too. Yes.
I think the last couple of like premiere dresses have been from there. Oh, Alice and Olivia. Alice and Olivia is great. They have great winter colors.
Okay, they do, and I love their stuff, but listen, let me tell you something crazy. I'm going to black pill you on
Okay.
Alice and Olivia. So I had no idea until recently, but Alice and Olivia has the worst resale value of any designer, which you don't have to
Really?
worry about. I guess Daily Wire would.
If
but
they have a secret Poshmark.
yeah, if they have a secret Poshmark, is that as soon as you wear it or take that item off the tag, it's like you lose like hundreds of dollars
That's
on
wild.
it, which is crazy because
Why?
I'm constantly switching up. I'll like go to like a luxury consignment store or something,
I
and I'll
see your
bring my stuff.
Poshmarks and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
great.
so like I'm always doing stuff like that, and I had an Alice and Olivia item even with the tags on that I had bought, and I had just missed the return date by like 3 days.
Okay.
And they were like, this is only worth like a couple $100s now. And I think I paid, it was close to $1,000.
Yeah.
So like those are the
wonder
types of
why.
things. I don't know. It's something weird with that brand. So that's just something
Okay.
for personally for you to know if
Well,
you
that's
ever
unfortunate
buy
because I
stuff.
love, they just have like the best jewel tones.
I know.
And they're also just, they're like a little edgy, but not edgy in the
No,
sense
it's
of
fun.
like
There's color,
yes, yeah.
patterns.
It's non-traditional, which I like.
You know those cartoons where the main character opens their closet and it's just like 100 of the same shirt because that's all they wear? Something similar happens when you open my kitchen cabinet. My love for masa chips is so real. Seed oil-free tortilla chips, thick and crunchy, made with only grass-fed beef tallow, organic corn, and real salt. I dream of these! Did you know that seed oils are chemically deodorized to prevent you from noticing the effects of oxidation and when the chips have gone bad? Disgusting. Not with masa chips. Made by the really tan man, his wife, the olive oil queen, and their new baby, who I call the really tan olive oil baby. One small family changing the snack industry from New Jersey. Masa chips also doesn't use any chemical preservatives, artificial flavor additives, citric acid, or yeast extract, since it is a small business and family running it, and they're using the highest possible quality ingredients. Masa chips are definitely a little pricier. I'm not going to lie to you about that. Taste-wise, worth it if you can swing it. I'm going to help you do that by giving you 20% off with code RealAlexClark on your first purchase at masachips.com. That's code RealAlexClark for 20% off at masachips.com. Check out all the different flavors. You were filming in Hungary. That's where you got engaged.
Yes.
So was your fiance, was he there the whole time traveling with you, or did he show up?
He came in and out. So he was going to be there the whole time. This man, I just love him to death, and I'll give him a shout out here. I give him a shout out on basically every podcast because I'm obsessed with him. But he literally turned his career upside down to be able to travel with me, to be flexible for me.
Is he managing you?
Well,
Like
no,
a business
no.
venture?
No, well, he does.
Because everyone does that. Candace's
Yes,
husband,
yeah.
Ali Bastucki's husband, they're all doing
I would
this.
love that. He does that in like a non-professional way.
Okay,
I think that some of my best ideas end up coming from him. He's a strategist in advertising, so he's just incredibly creative. He's much smarter than I am, much more creative than I am. It's just, he's amazing. But he was, in the corporate world, working for other people, and even with remote work, with my schedule changing so much and Daily Wire being like, all right, you're going to go to Hungary, you're going to go do this. It was very difficult. And so he made the decision, early last year to say, okay, I'm going to take, the reins of my own career. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to, be totally flexible so that I can be there for you, with you, so that this is not a problem for us, which honestly has just made him even more successful and even more fulfilled. And it's just great. So it's, worked out wonderfully. So he did all of that in an effort to be able to come be with me for the entire time in Budapest. And then he was training for a triathlon and he tore his ACL, MCL, basically just every ligament in his knee just exploded.
Oh.
It was awful. And so it was like the day before the triathlon. And so he went through all of these different tests and he had to be moved around from doctor to doctor, finally got his surgery scheduled for the day after I left for Budapest. And I felt so guilty because I was like, I'm just leaving you here all like strung up. So he had to be home to recover for about 6 weeks. So for the first 6 weeks, I was out there alone, which honestly I think was a great test for our relationship because, we had been together for about a year at that point and we hadn't really been apart. And I was in a new country. I was working, 2 full-time jobs, basically. We were apart on completely different time zones.
How did you talk?
We had scheduled FaceTime, before I would go to bed, before he would go to bed, because it kind of alternated. But it was a great test because I realized how much I relied on him and missed him. Like I'm a very hyper independent person and I always have been. And so I think in a relationship that was not as strong and that wasn't as meant to be, it would have been like a relief to kind of be away. Like, oh, I can go do my own thing. And I realized how much I missed him. It's like I'm in a totally new country, living abroad, living in these like beautiful Hungarian apartments, doing these amazing things, working on a TV show with like some of the best people I know, meeting all these great people. And it's just like, it was so dull because he wasn't there. So I was proud of myself because I was able to do it alone and we managed doing the show. And Pendragon and Reagan flew out and stayed for the majority of the time and helped produce the show while we were there.
Isn't your producer Reagan also married?
Yes,
so what happens to her husband?
Oh, poor Adam. Poor Adam. It was this poor man.
She needs a +1 also on all your little getaways.
Exactly. He has been able to come maybe a couple times, I think, but no, he's just wonderful. He's one of Alex's best friends as well.
Cool.
So that was good. So they hung out while we were there. And then Adam came for a bit. Alex came, I think, for 2 of the 5 months. And then he had to go back and be in person with a couple of clients at the tail end. But yeah, he came in the middle. And the day before my birthday last year, proposed, took me up to Fisherman's Bastion.
Were you expecting it at all?
I knew that it was going to happen sometime before the end of the year, but I didn't know exactly when. But I was not actually surprised in the moment because Reagan was hiding out in the bushes. And I already knew that something was suspicious because on the first day that he had arrived, we all, meaning Alex and Reagan and I, went to brunch and then we were really close to Fisherman's Bastion. I was like, oh, come on, Alex, you can go see this view. This is like the thing to do in Budapest. So we had already seen it. And he was hell-bent on going to see it at sunset. And I was like, we were just there like 24 hours ago. Like, let me go show you something else. There's so many amazing things to do in Budapest. I love Budapest. He was like, no, I really have to go see sunset. And I was like, okay. So we didn't make it one night. And he was all like flustered about it because I think I had to stay late shooting. So then the next night, we really have to go. And so we had dinner reservations at this cool French place on the opposite side of the river. And he was adamant that we were going to walk and we were going to walk through Fisherman's Bastion and we were going to get to dinner. And I was like, okay. I was like, that seems a bit fishy. And Reagan was also being like very coy. And then we were on this walk and it was fine. And we were, I literally had called Reagan on the walk because there was like some drama thing that happened with one of our friends. I was like, Reagan, can you believe what I just saw on social media? And she was like, wow, that's so true. I'm in my apartment right now. She was not. She was hiding in a bush. But the way that I knew was because he wears an Apple Watch. And I looked over at his arm and there was a text from Reagan and she said, all clear, I'm hiding in the bushes or something like that. And I was like, no. And so then I started to hyperventilate. And I was, again, we're on this stupidly long walk. We have now walked from my apartment or our apartment in Budapest, walked through the main city center, across the river. Now we were walking up all of these stairs. This man was like, let's like do a romantic hike. It was not romantic. I was like sweating all the way up here. And I had like my jacket on. And then I saw it and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And so I was like, all right, it's going to be fine. This is going to be great. This is everything you've ever wanted. Let's be calm. We get up there. It is the most crowded I have ever seen it, which he did not anticipate because they had gone the night before to like scope it out. And there was nobody there and it was totally quiet. There were like 4 huge tour groups. They were all like Chinese tourists, selfie sticks everywhere. Somebody was doing wedding pictures. And I was like, oh my God, this man does not know me at all. Like, cause I was like, I do not want any public engagement. What are we doing? And so I got so stressed that I made him go to Starbucks because there's a Starbucks up at the Bastion. And I got a bottle of water and I was like chugging it as we walked down the steps. And then it got even worse.
You were delaying your own proposal?
I was because I was so nervous because I hate, for somebody that like does this for a living, I hate like public attention. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And little did I know, he was also freaking out because again, the last night was totally empty. And so he was going, why are there so many people here?
There's going to be people in the shot.
Yeah, exactly. And he also knew that I didn't want a super public thing. So I think he was like freaking out. And we start walking down the steps where they had prepped, and there's a violinist in the middle. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, this is now we're drawing even more attention to this.
Was that him or
no? That was just a random guy that was there. And we ended up getting to this little like spot that he and Reagan had picked out. And it was like actually very secluded. So he did a great job. There was nobody around. You couldn't see anybody in the shot. But in our actual, like when he actually got down on one knee, I was holding my jacket and I had my Starbucks water bottle. And I was just like, so Reagan literally, she was like yelling at me and she was like, throw down the water, like redo. do? And so I like hurled everything on the ground.
True producer.
Yeah, exactly. She produced my engagement. But no, it was so great. And it was so meaningful for it to happen there because, again, I think that we had just gone through 6 weeks of being apart, which, again, really solidified, like, you are the person that I want to be with. Like, you bring so much color into my life. Like, I don't want to experience any of these things without you. You know, seeing what he had done in his career to be able to be there for that length of time and the sacrifices that he had made. So it was really meaningful in that way. And then, you know, ended up designing my wedding dress there and had it made by a Hungarian designer, which was so special. We planned most of the wedding while I was still in Budapest. So yeah, it was a really, really wonderful experience. And I love Budapest so much. I had already been once before going out there to shoot Pendragon, and I just loved it. Now it's like a even more special place in my mind.
Is it true that you had a guy once tell you that he would need 7 years before he could decide if you were worth marrying?
Yes. Yeah. That was my college boyfriend.
Walk me through this.
And I hate saying this because he's a great guy. And I think we would have been really, really excellent friends. And we were really good friends, which is why I think I held on as long as I did. Because I think we dated under a year, but the signs were there that it probably was not working earlier than that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant on the show. And I talk to women and I talk to guys. It's like when you know that it's not right? Like, why are you wasting your time? Like, why? Like, that's the one thing you can't get back is your time and your energy. But, you know, it's a learning experience. But yeah, we had some conversation about, you know, intentions and marriage. And I was always very clear that it's like, I want to be a wife. I want to be a mom.
And this is even in college?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was very, like, again, from childhood, the number one thing that I've always wanted to be is my mom. My mom is my idol, greatest person in my life. The way that she just attacked motherhood with everything in her being is just so inspirational to me. So it's like, put her on a pedestal. It's like, that is the best thing I could do. So I've always wanted that. Always been very upfront. And he very cavalierly said, yeah, well, you know, that won't happen for a long time. I went, okay. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, yeah, I'll need to date you for 7 years to know if I really want to marry you. Because then we will have gone through everything. I will have seen you in every single light possible. And then I can be sure. And in my mind, and that was when I was, you know, 18, I think. I was looking at the clock. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna sit around for 7 years and wonder if you're gonna want to marry me. Ended that pretty shortly after the fact.
So you broke up with him?
Yes.
Do you think too many women are making the mistake of willingly becoming the perpetual forever girlfriend?
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's a combination of a few things. I think the main one is fear of there not being something better. And I also think that a lot of women, when you've already put in the time and effort and you've gotten through the awkwardness and you've gotten out of the, you know, the weird talking phase and you've gone through the hurdles of swiping on apps and going on first dates and you're in a relationship, it's like, I'm going to hang on to this with every fiber of my being. I've already put in 3, 4, 5 years. But in my mind, it's like, okay, you've put in, you know, 3, 4, 5 years and you're going to walk away from that. Like, wouldn't you rather start from ground zero and find the right person to then spend the next 60, 70 years with instead of spending 60, 70 years with the wrong person? It's like when you put it in that perspective. And also, again, that's why I say when there are signs, when you know that there is not compatibility from the beginning, when there are things like, you know, I'm going to want to date you for 7 years and you know, like I want to have kids by the time I'm X age, I want to get married. I don't want to wait until I'm 26 years old, whatever it is. I want to be able to be free and go meet people who actually might want to know that they want to marry me earlier than that. That's when you cut dry and you move on because then you are not so emotionally entangled. My mom always says it's her clinging vine theory, which is my favorite thing ever.
Tell us.
If you have like a clinging vine wrapped around a tree, it's very easy. If the vine is a baby, if it's a new vine, you just pop it off. It's easy. It's like in the South, we have kudzu, and it is an invasive species that every Southern father, like once a year, goes out and it's like, I will get the kudzu. That kudzu, if you don't get it when it's a baby, when it's just started growing, it will take over your entire life. You literally have to take like an axe and be hacking it off. She's like, that's the same thing with relationships. If you've let this relationship invade your life and go on for far too long, if you are now living with this person, if you are sexually active, this goes for both men and women. If you just let it hang on when you know that it's not right because you're avoiding the confrontation, you're avoiding the feelings of being alone, that breakup is going to be even worse than you could ever imagine, that you're just going to keep putting it off. So again, if you know, then just like cut dry when you can.
What was your timeline of dating to engagement and then engagement to marriage with Alex?
It was about a year and a half until we were engaged. And then we got married in 6 months. In the grand scheme of wedding planning, that was fast.
Well, and I think also for our generation, I feel like everybody's having really long engagements.
Super long, yeah. And I think that is the wedding industry is to blame for that.
Really?
So my sister-in-law just got engaged. They're looking at wedding venues. They're trying to figure out when they could get married. Things in the South where they want to get married are literally booked up for the entirety of 2025. They can't get married until 2026.
Oh,
And then when you have this long engagement, and this was a piece of advice that my mom gave Alex and I, was that the longer the engagement is, the easier it is to make it a bigger deal than it really needs to be, like to make the party a bigger deal and to spend more money, because then you have, 2 years, like, oh, let's just spend, here, what's an extra $6,000 here? What's an extra $3,000 here? Let's do this crazy thing. Let's plan a whatever. But if you have these like 6 months, like we were very clear. I think that if we had, a longer time, we might have done a different wedding. We had a lot of different ideas that we had planned.
yeah. I was going to ask you, what was the vision for your wedding, and then how close did the final result match up?
It was almost exactly to a T, except for the venue, but I don't regret the venue in the slightest. So I had always envisioned kind of like a outdoor backyard style wedding. And so we had just bought this farm. And we have all this land, and we're like, all right, this will be great. Let's have the wedding here. Let's do this. But the logistics of it were going to cost more than any venue would have. Like, we were going to have to bring in bathrooms, parking.
Right.
We live very far away from Nashville, honestly. And it's not feasible for people to Uber. And so if they were going to be drinking, so we were going to have to plan for vans, shuttles,
Oh, yeah.
crazy. Then a rain plan, tents. You do not expect that tents are going to be like $50,000. But if you get a quote, it is truly insane. And so even if it doesn't rain, you still have to pay for the tent, even if you don't use it. So it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. We literally had our invitations about to be sent to the printer. We had all the vendors booked to have it at our farm. And my really good friend, Rose, who was one of my bridesmaids, she started in Pendragon with me. She and her family own a wedding venue. And in the back of my mind, I had always thought, okay, well, we have that, but it's a beautiful venue. It's always booked up. There's like 4 other girls from Daily Wire who have gotten married there. It's just like this stunning. It has a chapel. It has a barn. It's just like lovely. And they offer everything. It's all inclusive. And in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, we always have that. They also have a great barn on their property where they've held events. So it's a little closer to Nashville. So I had kind of her family as our backup. And I just had this moment where we were going through all the logistics, and we were about to book this tent. And I looked at Alex and I was like, I can't. This is like way too much. I was like, we can't spend this much money. We had, given ourselves a budget. We were going to stick to the budget. We had just bought this farm, had definitely extended ourselves, financially as much as we could. And that was more important than throwing a wedding, in our opinion. And I was like, I just can't, the logistics, I just can't do it. And he said, okay, then let's just see if there is even a date available in the venue. We can change everything. So I called Rose and her parents, and they randomly had one date available left in the spring.
Oh.
They said, it's yours. And it was
Oh
like
my
a God thing
gosh.
for sure. And
Yeah.
it was so special then, because even though it was not the thing that I had envisioned, it was so special because she is one of my closest friends, was a bridesmaid.
Yes.
Her family is like my second parents. Like, I go over to her house and have family dinners. Like, it was so special. They were all involved. And so that made it more special in my mind because, and this is just a very, very cool thing, and I've suggested this to people. It's not an easy thing to pull off, but every one of our vendors was somebody that we knew personally, which was just like, it gives me chills. It was so special because, the woman who made our cake was somebody who used to work at Daily Wire and was like my brand manager. She's like another mom to me. She was on the Great British Bake Off randomly. So she makes incredible cakes. Yeah. My mother-in-law got all the flowers from a friend of hers who is a florist. And the morning of, we made all the bouquets. The person who catered it was a friend of Rose's family that we had known and does like amazing barbecue. We wanted it to be really casual. The band, Alex sat next to them on his flight out to Budapest randomly. And
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I know, just random stuff like that. Even like the folks that we rented our stage from is like the company that Daily Wire uses that I've interacted with a ton. Like, I always see them in the studios, like they're bringing couches in for backstage or whatever. I know, like when I went to pick out the stage, I was like, oh, I know you. Like, this is so great. It was genuinely like everybody who touched our wedding was somebody that was like involved, in our personal
your
life.
life.
And so it was really like, I kept saying it was like a barn raising in many ways because truly everybody came together to make this possible.
In hindsight, is there anything that you would have done differently with your planning or execution?
I think I would have asked for help more because wedding planning, in my experience, was a bit of a lonely, alienating experience, which I've now heard from more people. And I had the best friends. I mean, Reagan, who's sitting over there, like, is incredible. She is the only one of my bridesmaids who had already gotten married. And so she had gotten married like the year before, stepped up in a massive way. Rose, when her family was like, all right, let's have you use the venue, stepped up. But before that, it really felt like there was so much pressure because you have all these people. I didn't expect the pressure because it's like, it's our day. We're doing what we want to do and we're getting married and it's so fun. But then when you have when you've sent out the invitations and you have all these people that are flying in and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to feed all of you. I need to make sure that you get home safely.
Did you feel any pressure as someone who is a social media personality to make it look good to all your followers? I mean, just honestly.
Not really. And it was I did that article with the conservator to cover the wedding, and that was honestly a kind of second thought decision. And that was less because I wanted to show off the flowers and the dress and more because I knew people were going to be interested. I knew that they were going to have opinions and thoughts.
Were you honestly dreading your audience finding out that you were getting engaged?
Not really. No, I was really excited about it. And I had kept Alex private because that is what he wanted. I love him so much. I will sing it from the rooftops. I want everybody to see him. I think that he is so cute. He's so sweet. He's so funny. And I just love him. And so I would love to just have him on display all the time. But he was, very certain that he wanted to maintain his privacy and kind of let that come out, which I also, I say, I want to, have him on display and show him off. But at the beginning of our relationship, I was really protective as well because there were so many people that had opinions and I have, a pretty male-dominant audience. It's changed now. I think it's more even. But there were a lot, and I think a lot of people hear me say that and go, oh, you didn't want them to leave you. You wanted them to be obsessed with you. But it was more so I just didn't want everybody else's opinions and anger and concerns about my relationship until I was totally certain of it and could kind of withstand that because I knew people would have opinions. And I didn't want to invite millions of people into our relationship when it was still a baby relationship. So in hindsight, I do think we handled it in the right way. But with the, showing the wedding, my decision to have, or our decision to have conservator come and do the article was because, again, I knew people would have, an interest in it and I wanted to share it. And especially I wanted to kind of make a statement and that it's I'm young, I'm getting married. This is, what I'm doing. I believe in this. I believe in the institution of marriage. I'm so excited. This is where my life begins. Marrying Alex, I feel was the beginning of my life in a lot of ways. People say oh, you're settling down. I was like, no, this is we're building this future together. This was the start of something so amazing. So I wanted to share that, and getting married is a statement in a lot of ways. I wanted the article to share our values and why we were getting married and why we held our wedding in the way we did with having our community be very involved. But I didn't want it to look like I was monetizing my wedding. That was a big concern. Reagan said, well, do you want to do a video on your channel? I was like, I don't, because I get money from that. That's weird to me because this is so, personal. And I'm making it not private by inviting you into it. And so the conservator is run by some of my closest friends and they're wonderful, Jamie and Caroline. And so they were already going to be attending the wedding. And I was planning on inviting them. And I thought this is, they've never covered a wedding before. Caroline is a beautiful writer. They would cover it in a way that was not just about the dress and the flowers and who's there, but they would cover it in a way that is about the values and the people and the marriage and the biblical meaning behind it. So that was our decision in doing that.
Make sure you're thinking ahead in case you or someone in your family gets sick as the cooler weather creeps in. I've been building my medicine cabinet and fridge, and I've got elderberry syrup, bee propolis throat spray, turmeric supplements, and liposomal vitamin C. And in my fridge, you are going to find a ton of immunity juice from Squeeze Juice. Made from a small GMO-free family farm in California, Squeeze Juice has no added sugar, no water added, and only pure ingredients. The immunity juice is pomegranate juice, mandarin juice, apple puree, carrot juice, ginger juice, turmeric juice, habanero pepper juice, and vitamin C. Oh my gosh, all items that could be an ingredient and real food. The last thing you want to drink when you're sick is the run-of-the-mill orange juice that you find at the store filled with 30 grams of sugar and high fructose corn syrup sprayed with glyphosate, which wrecks the gut and is terrible for your immune system. Squeeze Juice is like squeezing fruit and making it yourself in the kitchen, except they do the work for you. It's the same clean ingredients without the work, shipped cold straight to your door. Go to shop.squeezejuice.com with code ALEX for 25% off. Go to shop.squeezedjuice.com with code ALEX for 25% off. We have to talk about Simpgate. What does your husband think about your comment section?
Oh, gosh.
Does he find it cringe? Does he find it funny?
He
Does it
loves
annoy him?
He is so unflappable. He is the most unflappable man I have ever met. He is so sure of himself in every single way, which is one of the many reasons why I love him. Like, nothing can touch him. Like, he is very sure of himself and his values and what he has and where he's going. And so he reads those and he just laughs and he's like, oh, that's a good one. Like, that's
Did
whatever.
you have a conversation when you were in the just dating stage of like, so this happens every time I post? Like, did you say anything?
He already knew. So I think it didn't really have to be like, I don't think we ever had like a formal conversation about it.
How do you feel about it?
I think it just comes with the territory. It's not something that I obviously seek and
But you know it's
love.
Totally different than any other girl in the conservative
I know,
media
which is
space.
Wild. Yeah.
It's totally
and so it's just
different.
kind of like, again, I just laugh at it. And I never want it to be like, I'm like wagging my finger at these guys. I'm like, move on. It's like, I don't really care. If you want to comment that, it's fine. I laugh at them. You know, if I can give guys hope that there are good girls out there that are waiting for them, then that's great. That's kind of how I see it. That it's like, okay, well, I might be taken. I might have just gotten married. But there are girls like me. There are girls who, you know, still love men, that don't hate men, that want to get married, that are smart, that, you know, believe in common sense, you know, conservative politics. And so if I can offer some hope in that regard, then it's like, I don't mind.
Was there anything cute that your husband said to you on your wedding day that nobody knows, like a cute moment or a little side comment he made?
Okay, this isn't something that he said to me, but my like bridal suite had a window that opened up into the patio where the cocktail area was. And so he was out there like mingling with his groomsmen and kind of greeting people. And the window was open, but the curtains were closed. So I could hear him, and I heard him down below, and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And my mom, being my mother, marches right out there. And so I hear her go, Alex, why are you nervous? Like, what's going on? And then he was like, no, Diane, it's not that I'm like, I don't want to go through this. I'm just nervous. I'm so excited to see her. And so that was sweet because I don't think he didn't know that I was there listening. But it was just a great day. I took a nap before I walked down the aisle. I was
great.
so relaxed.
You were at peace.
I was like, this is like exactly who I want to marry. This is exactly the wedding that we've envisioned. Like, everything went perfectly. There was a problem with the forks. I had no idea. Nobody told me anything. I was just vibing, literally in my veil. Like,
that's so good.
It was great.
That's how you know you're with the right person.
Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, it didn't matter because it was like, by like 9 p.m., I'm going to be dancing with Alex. I'm going to be married. It's going to be great.
So this new place that you have, is it Homestead?
Yes.
Is that what you're planning on doing? Is you want to really like create your own food and grow it and whatever and raise it?
Yeah. So it's been like a childhood dream of mine. My mom, actually, she always wanted to do 4-H. She always wanted to do agriculture things. They lived in the suburbs of Atlanta. They lived in Dunwoody. So my grandmother was absolutely adamantly against that. She is like very prim, very proper. I love my grandmother, but she's like very nervous about everything. So she was like, Diane, you're like, why? No, we want to go do things with cows. It's very weird. So my mom never got to do that. And she always moved us to properties with land.
Was she a single mom when you were growing up?
No, my parents actually got divorced, when I was 16, 17, but the divorce had been going on for many years.
Okay.
And they were technically, not legally, but they were separated probably from the time that I was 10 years old. Like, we're sleeping in different bedrooms.
Okay,
so I knew from a very young age
that they were not together.
Yeah. But they stayed together for me, which that's a whole different conversation of...
Should you stay together for the kids?
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, maybe not if you're just going to be in separate bedrooms and you're not even going to show affection or even pretend like you're together. But I also think that them even trying to be together does speak volumes to me, that they would stick it out that long and even try to be in the same house. And, you know, we would sit down and have dinners together, even though they really didn't get along and they couldn't stand each other a lot of the time. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I got to spend time with them together rather than always being bounced around. Because I would go out to California and New York for acting, and my mom would take me out there. My dad wouldn't go, but you know, I would always come back to Chattanooga, which is where I'm from, here in Tennessee, and my mom would come with me, so we would all be together in that way. So I got that experience. But again, I probably knew from the time that I was 8 years old that they were going to end up getting divorced. I think my mom always recounts that there was a time I was in the car with her, and I was like, "When are you guys going to get divorced? Like, come on, this is like, I see the way you fight. I see your disdain for each other. It like literally, it does not make sense. Their relationship doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Very, very different personalities. She's very dominant. He's not.
And she wanted to live in the country and he didn't?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a big thing. So we would always like move to, this house has 5 acres. This house has 6 acres. And every time my dad was like, no, we don't want chickens. I don't want cows. I don't want to do any of that. So she always got so close to it, but never actually got to take that leap. She was always very crunchy. I wouldn't say that my mom is like, she's become extremely, extremely crunchy. But growing up, it was more so that she was just very clean and very skeptical of everything. Like her end all be all was Mark Sisson. She loves Mark Sisson in the
From Primal Kitchen?
Yes.
I like Mark too.
He's great. And I remember she had his big like Primal Blueprint book. So like she would get my dad the grounding shoes, like the little like 5-finger toe shoes.
That's pretty crunchy. That's pretty ahead of her time.
Yes. Oh yeah, she was. And she, stopped vaccinating me when I was really young. When I always think of my mom, in my childhood, she would wear these like long Patagonia shorts, and her favorite t-shirt was a shirt that says "No farms, no food."
Cool.
And so even though she chose to respect my dad and not get these farm animals and not do any of that, she was very engaged in our agricultural community. Some of our good friends had a Highland cattle ranch in Kentucky, so she would take me up there so that I could learn about all of that and be around all the pigs and the cows. And
that's so cool.
So it was even though she couldn't offer that to me, she wanted that to be part of my life and be something that I really cared about. We were always at the farmer's market. She was a cookie teacher and a baker for a long, long time. So everything that she made was from scratch. So that was just a part of my life. And I never really considered that was like a statement in any way or, differed from the norm. I knew that our family was a little bit weird because I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I never watched Disney Channel.
You never watched TV?
Oh, no, we didn't have TV.
So you are not a Gen Zer that grew up with SpongeBob?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You sound like my husband because he loves SpongeBob.
You're missing out.
I know, that's what he says. But no, I never watched anything. In fact, we would go to hotels and I would always be so excited because whenever we would travel, I would be allowed to watch 30 minutes of PBS Kids.
It was a treat.
It was a treat.
So what, Arthur?
Yes. Yes, literally. And Barney. I was obsessed with Barney. We did have a television. And I was allowed to watch the Andy Griffith Show, and I was allowed to watch I Love Lucy.
So if you were not growing up with TV, then how did you know that you wanted to be a child actor?
It makes no sense. I loved books. I loved stories. My love of acting does not come from like a love of cinema. I think that this is like
it's storytelling.
Blasphemous for me to say. And people in the film industry will say like, they'll talk about all these directors and these films. I'm like, I really have no idea because I just love the stories. I love narratives. I love fiction. I was an English major and I focused in British literature in college. And it was really because I would just lie on the floor in our house. I was homeschooled. And so I would the majority of my education growing up was just books. I would read for like 8 hours a day. My history curriculum was all like historical novels based, and then we would supplement it with whatever she felt like I was missing. But that is what engaged me in a subject. And so that's really the foundation of
that's
my
very
love of all of this.
Charlotte Mason method.
I don't know any of that.
Are you thinking you want to homeschool?
Oh,
probably?
for sure.
Yeah. So there's like all these different like education styles and
yeah.
stuff like that. And Charlotte Mason is one where you are basically using literature to connect to all these other subjects.
Oh, that's exactly what it was.
So like if you're reading a book that happens to mention London's Bridge, well, now we've read about this, so now let's do a whole study on London's Bridge and architecture and bridges and other famous bridges in the world.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. What does it take to build a bridge? What materials are you? So you see, you get into science and math and all this, but it's based from the book.
And it's very student driven of like what you find you're interested in, which I think is how we ended up in that way because my mom knew that I was very different from my older brothers. My older brothers are extremely analytical. They are math and science based. My brothers do not want to read. They do not want to write essays, do anything. And I was just like, give me all of it. And so she quickly realized, okay, this is not going to work. What we did with, the boys is not going to work for her.
And that's so smart of her because that is totally the case is usually you have, within one family, even a homeschool family, the cool thing about homeschool is that you can individualize the education. So if, you've got this sibling who learns really well doing this, then you can do that for them. But then you are really into books and you learn from books.
Even outside of homeschooling, because I was the only one who went basically K through 12. I went to public school for 1 year, 9th grade. Terrible, but I learned a lot. Didn't learn anything academically, but I learned that I didn't like it. So that was a positive thing. But I was the only one who really was homeschooled the entire time. My brothers did it in and out. They never really excelled in homeschooling. It just didn't really work for them. And so they actually, early 2000s, Stanford University was the only online high school. So they did that for a little bit. But she was just very conscious of what would be best for each child. So like my oldest brother knew that he wanted to be in the military. The Marines are the only branch that do not have a university, but they have a high school. And so he was like, I want to go here. I want to do this. It's going to help me get into the service academies. And she was like, great, then let's get you nominated. Let's get you there. So it was really individualized for each child, even outside of homeschooling. My brother, David, he's the one who passed away. He was very soft-spoken, very sensitive, a bit more artistic than the other boys. And he always felt like he needed a bit of an edge. And I think the hardest thing my mom ever did was send him to that military school because he desperately wanted to go. And he was like, Mom, I need to man up. I need to be tougher. We were living on an island at the time, and he basically came to her with this pitch. This is like a common thing in my family. We would give my mom like PowerPoint presentations of why we wanted to do something, and we would have like an adult conversation about it, go through the pros and the cons, and then, we would make a decision. But he said, I really think that I need this because I'm not getting this on the island. I don't have these types of friends. I don't feel like I'm strong enough. I don't think I'm tough enough. And it was like heartbreaking to her because this was her like very artistic, sweet boy. And she sent him off to military school. But he did great. He learned so much. And at the end of that first year, he went, okay, yeah, this isn't for me, but I learned a lot. And she's the kind of mom that would go, okay, we tried that. We can go do something else. Like she wouldn't get upset because we tried something that didn't work. Like when I went to that public school for 1 year, by my end of my first semester, I knew this is not for me. But I said, and she offered to pull me out immediately. I said, no, I promised myself that I would stick it out for a year, that I would do this, that I would get this experience, that I would make these friends. I would check off all the boxes, go to homecoming, do the football games, all of that. And then after a year, I was done. And she was like, great, all right, we can move on to something next. It was a really, really effective way of parenting that really made us all, I think, feel seen, like genuinely seen as individual human beings by our mom.
Have you ever talked about what happened with your brother that passed away?
I've talked about it here and there, but never on a podcast.
Do you mind sharing what happened?
I'd love to. I think I've only ever talked about this. We do something called All Access Live with Daily Wire where we do like Q&As with our members. So I think I've talked about it there. But so I have 3 older brothers, Chase, Reed, and David. Reed and David are twins. When they were 17 years old, they were at rowing practice. They did crew. David had a cardiac arrest and fell off of his rowing machine and collapsed. They did not have any defibrillators on campus, and so they tried CPR, but nothing could revive him. It was on Valentine's Day, 2007. So by the time we got to the school, there was basically nothing that could be done. Went to the hospital. They did an autopsy, and to this day, we really don't know. They've linked it to something called long QT syndrome, which is a rhythmic problem in the heart. But Reed and David are identical, and Reed had no sign of any of it. He had no heart problems. He's never had any heart problems. They literally are identical, and so it had to be something that was like epigenetics, that like something changed environmentally in David's life. My mom, you'll appreciate this, because she was relatively crunchy. She talked to the doctors about the fact that David drank like 2 Red Bulls a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And she was always very like, David, you should not be drinking these. But that was probably at the time when my parents' relationship was the most heated. It was really, really bad. Very, very tense. Not great. Chase had just gone off to college, and she was just kind of just distracted. I don't want to put words in her mouth and say that she regrets it, but I think that that's something that she probably wishes that she had pushed more on, because they would just get in the car. He would have his Red Bull. He would have his Red Bull on the way home. And she brought it up to the doctor. She said, like, in my gut, I knew that he shouldn't be drinking these. Could that have caused anything? No, of course not. And then my mom and I were on the phone about 2 months ago, and she sent me a new study that was done on young people drinking Red Bull and the spikes in cardiac arrests.
Well, it also reminds me of like the Panera lemonade scandal, which got memed to oblivion, but also
it's very real.
Yeah. The amount of caffeine and things like that. I mean, I think that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were when you found out that he had passed away?
We were making Valentine's at our house in North Chattanooga. We went to the school first, and then we followed the ambulance to the hospital. And it's very blurry after that. I remember the room where they would put the family of somebody who had just passed away. I think that's what the room was like very dark, very like purple hues. And a nurse took me. I remember walking through the halls. It was by that point very late in the evening, because they had tried everything at this point. They were doing autopsies. And I had my bright lime green Hannah Anderson clogs on. And I remember this because there was nobody else in the hospital. And I was like clomp, 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 running through the halls, and really had no concept of what was going on. And I don't think I really understood for a while, but it absolutely destroyed my family. I mean, there was really no coming back for that. My parents' marriage was already on the fritz, and losing a child was just, there wasn't any coming back. My brother Chase went back off to college. He handled it in his own way. He definitely is somebody that, kind of shuts down emotionally. So I felt very alone at that point in my life. I actually was just on Lila Rose's podcast, and she was asking why I had gotten into acting. And it was because my mom noticed that I just had become basically, this incredibly shy, not talking, not coming out of my shell. I would literally hide in the cupboards in our houses. We were in the process of moving when David died. Would not speak to people. And there was like a community theater production at my brother's school that was going on, and they needed some kids. And so she was like, I think this is a good opportunity to just get you out there, like get on stage, go do something. And I just fell in love with it because I think I had felt so shut down and kind of left behind in a way because and understandably so, I was the lesser priority in the family at that time because my brother Reed was in the room, was sitting next to David. He watched his identical twin die.
And is this the brother now that struggles with schizophrenia?
Yes, yeah.
So do you think that your brother losing his identical twin, is that what triggered the schizophrenia, or were there signs of this before?
No, there were no signs of it before. It's directly correlated. My mom often says, and I think a psychologist who was working with my brother Reed told her this as well, but we're basically all one traumatic event away from losing our minds. Like it can happen like that. Like something just in his brain. That, and then I can't play down this part, and this is also a controversial thing. He, in the aftermath of David's death, smoked a lot of weed. And people hate this conversation because they want to say that weed is harmless. Allie Beth Stuckey and Liz Wheeler have been sounding the alarm specifically about cannabis and its links with schizophrenia.
And psychosis.
Yes. And so I think that those two things are intrinsically connected. And weed can also spark, clinical depression. It can spark a myriad of different mental health conditions. And so I think that it is all very connected. And I don't think we could ever pinpoint which one caused it more than the other because schizophrenia is often caused by a very, very traumatic event. And I think that, people hear that and they go, okay, well, people die all the time. Like what's different here? But if you're not a twin, you just don't know. And I can try to understand my brother as much as possible. I have done therapy with my brother. I've sat next to him with a psychologist that literally specializes in twin loss because the only way that he would go see a therapist is if I would go with him. So I've sat through, listening to all of this. It is an experience unlike anything else. There is a point in a twin's life when you do have to disconnect because you've just been together. Since you were in the womb. And Reed and David had been in the same bedroom. They had split up for that, 9 months that David went to the military academy. That was awful for them. So they came back together. They had been in the same school, same class, same friend group, same bedroom, same routine. They look exactly alike. They were identical. And they had not gone through that period of breaking apart and becoming their own individuals.
Right.
They were one. And so Reed literally lost half of himself. And he aggressively has tried to change the way he looks. He won't shave his beard. He keeps his hair very long. And I think a lot of that, and he shared this sometimes with me in bits and pieces, is because he can't look in the mirror and see David.
So he is capable of having coherent conversation and things
not
like
anymore.
That. Oh, not anymore.
He's totally nonverbal now.
Really?
Yeah.
And so how often do you see and talk to him?
I have not seen him since December of 2021.
Has he gotten to meet your husband?
No.
How does that feel?
It's awful. I was actually dealing with a bunch of stuff right now because if anything were to happen to my mom, we would lose all contact with Reed.
No idea where his whereabouts are or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Because she has been able to, work with his doctors, even though he is an adult. He's 12 years older than me. So I'm actually working through things right now to become part of that guardianship just so that I can be there. And it's always been, this has been going on for 10 years at this point. I think was his first psychotic break. This has been probably the defining part of my adolescence, really. He's been in and out of my life. For many years, he was homeless in California, so I would literally have to go out and find him on the street and make sure he was okay. I found him passed out in front of Targets after overdoses. It's been really, really terrible. But for 10 years, I've kind of known that this would, and not in a bad way, but that this would inevitably fall on my shoulders, that I would be the one to take care of him. My dad really is not, they're not that close. I don't think Reed would want that. My brother Chase, it's just, they have a pretty fraught relationship because of some things that Reed has done in the midst of psychosis, and because he just becomes a totally different person. And I just made the decision that I would rather have, carry all of that than have him be out there and be alone.
That's a lot at a young age.
It is. But it's worth it to me because I know he's such an incredibly brilliant human being. He's a wonderful human being that has just had odds and odds and odds stacked up against him. And obviously, you have to take accountability, and he has made some not great choices that we've talked about as a family, and he used a lot of drugs. He rejected help when he probably shouldn't have, but you can't change that.
Do you feel like you've ever been allowed the space to fully grieve your brother's death?
Yes, later on. But it's interesting. I think I've grieved both of them in different ways. I don't think that I grieved David's death, honestly, until I turned 17. It's a weird thing that people talk about if you've lost a parent or if you are a young person and you lose a sibling. I felt so guilty turning 17 because he did not get to live longer than that. And it was the worst day of my life. I just remember I had a Spanish final that day. It was my second year of community college, I think. I sat in my car just bawling. And I don't think I really expressed this until I called my mom that day from the car. And I was I genuinely thought that my life was going to end a week after my 17th birthday, because his birthday is February 7th and he died on February 14th. I was that was just, I haven't thought really further than that. I've dreamed about things, but it was just that's where the road ends. And it felt like a betrayal in a way to be able to get older and do things that he never got to do, because I was looking up to him in so many different ways. And I've idolized him for my entire childhood, because, when you lose somebody, you usually focus, obviously not that he was a bad person or anything like that, but you focus on all the amazing things, and he's so wonderful. And he really was. He was so artistic, and he was the best of us. And he was so kind and so sweet. And so I've put him up on this pedestal, and then to now be older than him felt such betrayal. To be able to, he never went to college. He had all these dreams. He wanted to go to UT Austin. He wanted to be an architect, to be able to go and chase my dreams, to get married. He desperately wanted to get married. His long-term girlfriend, just got married a couple of years ago, which was so wonderful. We're still in her life. But, to see everybody else's life progress and his, him not be able to, I think that's really when I grieved.
What do you miss about him the most?
I miss what could have been. I think when you lose somebody at such a young age, I was 5. There's a presence in my life that I miss. I miss what my family was like, that kind of childlike innocence of what we were like before he passed away. But I really miss what our family could have been like if he had not passed away. And I miss what Reed would be like if he was still here. And that's a whole other thing of, having to grieve somebody who is still alive, because I've had to come to terms with the fact that the brother and the boy that I grew up with, who was always in the bedroom next to me, that person's not coming back. And I think I held out hope for many years, probably 7 years of going through all of this with him, that, he would come back, he would get, spurts of all right, he's coming back. He hasn't had a break in a while. He's off his meds. This is great. And then it would just happen again. And this last one that happened in December of 2021, it was a week before I moved here. That was the last time that I saw him, because he was put in a hospital that was still COVID era, so we weren't allowed in, and he pushed us away. We couldn't find him for a while. It was kind of, the doctors at that point said this is kind of it. And he's always going to need care. We don't know if he'll ever speak again. And this is just going to be it.
If you're just starting to make non-toxic swaps with personal care items, it doesn't need to be complicated. Just look for ingredients that are black and white. That's the entire mission behind my favorite deodorant brand, Zebra. Made in the USA, aluminum and paraben-free, mined sodium bicarbonate and arrowroot powder and essential oils to help maintain dryness and odor absorption. If you are super sensitive to scents, even essential oils, they have a fragrance-free deodorant called Liberty. I love the eucalyptus and the alpha deodorant, which is scents of sandalwood, and vetiver. They also sell fluoride-free toothpaste and non-toxic floss. Their toothpaste tablets are really, really fun for kids and adults who just want to pop one in to chew after a meal. If I'm carrying my bigger purse, I love having that thing on me. Go to yayzebra.com and use code ALEX for 10% off any order. That's yayzebra.com and code ALEX for 10% off non-toxic floss, toothpaste, and deodorant. How did you tell Alex about all of this stuff with your family for the first time? Do you remember? Did you have to like brace yourself for like, okay, I got to dump all this. I'm scared. Is he going to love me through this? Is he going to leave? Is this going to be too much for him to handle? Were you nervous about that?
I was very nervous. I sobbed the night before I met his parents because I was like, I'm such a broken bird, basically. And I don't think of myself as being a victim or, being defined by my family, but he has the most wonderful family.
Were you nervous about them asking you, like, so tell us about your siblings?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to operate in a environment that was so well adjusted.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you guys do? What do you talk about? Like, he has like 3 amazing siblings. They're so wonderful. They actually kind of have the same age breakdown that my brothers and I do, which I think is just even weirder in a really wonderful way because
You're experiencing the life that you wish you could have had.
Yes.
Through him.
Like his younger sister is closer to my age. We actually grew up having playdates together. And Alex went to my brother's high school. So we've been like in and out of each other's lives. My mom is really good friends with a couple of friends of his mom. His younger brother's best friend was a good friend of mine growing up. And so it was just like, we're very, very intertwined. I was being faced with what I desperately wanted and didn't get to have. And I was just like, this is awful. But I'm pretty open about all of this. Like it's almost in a bad way where I'm just like very matter of fact, where I was like, oh yeah, I had to go find my brother today. He was passed out, whatever. Like it's just, I think it's kind of become like a defense mechanism of it's just been so normal for so long. And my dad did this, my brother did this. I'm the girl with the dead brother. So I think I just kind of laid all of that out and probably sooner than I needed to. And he's so unflappable. He was just like, okay. And I think that other people in his life were a bit more concerned than he was because they were like, oh, Alex, she's a bit out there. She's a public figure and she has all of these things. But he was so steady and he saw it as a testament to my character more than anything else and just an interesting part of my story. He has loved me through all of it. He is the backbone that I needed at so many points in my life. He makes me smarter. He makes me braver, makes me more confident in every part of my life. He makes me feel like I can take on anything, whether it is in career or family. So when I'm dealing with these things with my brother or, whatnot, it's never like this is a sensitive conversation. It's just like, okay, this is great. It's matter of fact. It's so healing in that way because it's not dramatic.
Do you feel like Pharma has failed your brother with mental illness in any way?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. There are so many studies that talk about ketogenic diets and the way that we eat and the connection with psychosis and schizophrenia, and that is the last thing that they will ever bring up. Even with talking about his grief and the trauma that he experienced, that is like low on the totem pole of being discussed when we would go in and have meetings with people. It was like they were only caring like, okay, well, you're schizophrenic, here's a bunch of drugs. And he would be put on this medication where he would literally have full body paralysis. And he would be incredibly ill. He was so sick. He was losing all this weight. And they're like, yeah, well, this is kind of it. This is what you get. And I think that they failed him because he trusted the doctors more than he trusted my mom and I. Because I think he was always like, Mom, you want me to, I think he was kind of perpetually stuck in that like 17-year-old boy of like, I'm fine. I'm not sick. I'm not grieving. I'm not sad. I never cried about my brother dying. I don't need any of this, Mom. I'm totally fine. And so I think he trusted the doctors more who were just saying, yeah, you just got to be on these meds rather than saying, let's actually work through what you've experienced over the last 10 to 15 years. Let's talk about your lifestyle and the, pot that you're smoking all the time. Let's talk about the food that you're eating, the fact that you are on a vegan diet that's not any kind of like clean. He was vegan at the time.
Oh, well, right there, he's probably so vitamin deficient, causing a lot of mental illness.
Incredibly so. Yeah. Incredibly so.
Going through all of this with your brothers, was this the catalyst that led you into being more interested in health and wellness. I feel like your content, you've started to implement a lot more health and wellness stuff into your content. Is that what it is, or did something else spark your interest in food and pharma?
So because my mom had always been relatively crunchy, and kind of like I said earlier, I didn't think that it was abnormal at all. And, I had been keto for a while. My mom lost a ton of weight by being keto and being very conscious about the way that she ate. Anyway, it was just like, that was a part of my life. It wasn't until, Christmas 3 years ago, my brother and I were at home, and my mom and my brother and I, the oldest brother, Chase, were talking about how many people we knew who had gotten cancer. And it was spanning all ages. It was like, my brother had 4 friends, and he's mid-30s, who've been diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Yeah.
My mom had a ton of friends, college, high school, all diagnosed with cancer. In my friend group, I've had, I think, 2 friends diagnosed with cancer, and then even more in just mutual friends and circles. One of my good friends, she was a bridesmaid of mine, I think had 3 or 4 girls in her sorority, like in surrounding years, all be diagnosed with terminal colon cancer. And it was just flabbergasting to us. And my brother and I kind of made a commitment. We were like, all right, we're gonna turn this ship around. And we had decided we were going to do annual blood work and do strict blood work. So I ended up working with Merrick Health on that, and we did a full blood panel. And so that was the real catalyst. And then that just led me down the rabbit hole looking at female fertility, and because being a mom is what I want so desperately, and that's just kind of, that is going to happen in my life. And then starting looking at, not only cancer, but also the fertility rates, and, it's actually all connected. And so maybe I need to not just clean up my diet, but actually the things that I'm using on my skin and my shampoo is actually killing women. And so I think it was about 3 years ago. And then that it was kind of like full circle when it came back. Because obviously I had thought about big pharma and the government's intervention in our food and our health with COVID.
Sure.
And and so that was already part of it. And so it was just very synergist in that way. It was like,
that's how I felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the pandemic was kind of the thing I needed to see. I needed to see those
the big picture.
Yeah, to understand and connect all these dots. And then that's when I became obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into like an average day for you. You're filming, you're waking up. I want you to be as granular as possible.
Okay.
What time you wake up? What are you eating? What are you doing? When do you go here? When do you go here? Like, tell us all of the things.
Suddenly I'm awake. I wake up around 5:30, I think.
Is that easy for you? You have to set an alarm.
I set an alarm. I have a Hatch alarm. It is the greatest thing I've ever done.
I've been wanting to try those.
Yes. And you don't need to buy the really fancy one. You can get one of the knockoffs on Amazon that's so much cheaper, and it does the exact same thing. I am such a heavy sleeper. I have slept through fire alarms, literally. Alex and I have had fire alarms go off, and I'm out cold. We got our puppy in February. She had to get out and go to the bathroom like a million times a night. I just sleep through everything. My mom has promised me that when I have a child, like I will have mom brain, and I will be sad. But I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to like sleep through this child crying. So I'm very, very heavy sleeper. I used to have an alarm called the Sonic Boom alarm, and it had a paddle that went under my pillow, and it would shake me, and it would go, wee, wee, wee.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And the Hatch style sunrise, it wakes me up. So it's great.
Yeah, so it mimics, for those that don't know, the Hatch alarm clock mimics a sunrise so that it's like a natural way of your body
and
waking.
the only sound is like birds chirping. It's like,
it's really nice. It's very Disney princess of you.
Yes, thank you. And so that wakes up. I should not snooze, but I do. But I use that as an opportunity. Like Alex, because he's such a light sleeper, he wakes up, so then I get to go and like spend like a few minutes with him, and I get to be awake with him, and kind of like prolong that as much as possible. So I'm usually out of bed by 5:45 or 6. I get up, skincare, which is very, very minimal. I'm very low maintenance. I wash my face, cold water usually, and then I will do beef tallow.
And beef tallow works for you. This is a whole point.
I know, yeah. It's
I don't like it. I don't like it for my face.
It's the only thing that's worked for me.
Now, see? Everybody, hold on to your seats. I'm saying I don't like it, and Brett does. So now what are you going to do? So see, this is great.
Yes, I remember your episode. I forgot her name.
Jamie McGuire.
Yes. Yeah, the whole conversation.
So her and I both agree we like it for other parts of our body, but we just don't love it on the face, but it works for you.
It's the only thing that is like, because I was an actor, like you can't even have like a pimple on your face if you're a kid in Hollywood. And so I have been going to estheticians since I was like 10 years old. I have tried everything. I have had like medical grade skincare. I have had the natural stuff, whatever. And it was just too much.
That's great.
I'm also somebody who I'm not great at sticking to a skincare routine. And I know that about myself. And so again, like 2.5 years ago, whenever this started, I said, okay, I'm gonna get rid of everything. I'm gonna go bare bones as possible. And I was only using my cellar water, and that was it. And
Wow.
yes. And I was like, let me just start.
Okay, so you
from
must
ground.
not have dry skin because I have to have
No.
moisturizer and stuff on or I'm
No.
dying.
Yeah.
Are you oily or
Depending
normal?
on- Normal.
Oh, so she's blessed.
So yeah, I really did. And I would sometimes use, if I had heavier makeup that I needed to take off, I would use jojoba oil, just like straight jojoba oil. And so that would give me a bit of moisturization. But especially living in Tennessee, it's so humid.
Right. Yeah, that's
that
true.
it's like totally different.
you get
if
that
I was
moisture.
in California still, I probably would need a different story.
Okay, so skincare, then what?
Brush teeth. I just started using Zebra, actually. They're great.
You love?
Yeah, I do.
I love it too.
Yeah. We've used Risewell for years, and Alex still really likes them, but I like the aftertaste in Zebra.
Yep.
It's like, it just feels very minty. It's great. Do that. The great part about how the show runs and Daily Wire and our whole operation is that I can show up literally in like workout attire and basically my pajamas and like make me beautiful. So I don't have to do anything else. I will go out. Sometimes I'll eat in the morning, but often I don't. I'm not a big breakfast person, and I know that I need to have more protein in the morning, but I just like, it doesn't sit well with me. So try not to drink coffee until I've eaten breakfast. So I'll usually just leave. I'll get a big thing of water that I put my Armra in and my Element in and my hydration, whatever. I grab my supplements. Alex puts together we have these little mason jars, and every night he goes through, and he's a big supplement guy. And he goes through it when he like takes out his entire, Reagan's over there laughing. She knows. We have this whole cabinet in our kitchen. He pulls out everything and he goes through and he like puts, all right, here's Brett's this, here's
Oh my
this,
gosh,
whatever.
I love that.
And so it's ready for me in the morning. So
Okay, so what are a couple things that you're like, I notice a difference if I don't take this?
The biggest thing for me has been, this is another one actually that you recommended, Birthright. I take their prenatals and their hormone reset. My periods have never been easier. Prior to finding her, I was, and I know you work with them as well, and I work with them Heart and Soil.
Yeah.
And they're great.
Her
Their
stuff.
package.
Okay,
Yes.
tell me.
Yes.
Do you feel like ovulation is on another level on her? It is crazy.
I don't know if I notice it more. I notice a change in definitely demeanor and happiness level. I think that with Birthright and with Heart and Soil, the phases of my cycle are more distinct.
Yes, exactly.
That's it. Like I can actually tell.
You can tell where you're at.
And it's much easier.
Yep.
My PMS has just like, it's totally like, it's so easy now. My periods are so short.
It's
Sorry,
the best.
TMI. But yeah, it's turned it around. So that's a big one whenever I'm actually taking like prenatals.
I talked to Paul Saladino about this when he came on the show. He recommended the brand Needed.
That's the other one I use.
There you go.
I take their CoQ10, which is great for both heart health, which I'm always very concerned about, especially with my brother's stuff.
Yep.
And it's great for uterine health. And then I take their egg health as well.
Cool.
And this is all like, Alex has put all this together. He's genuinely the best.
Love that.
Yeah, so he takes like the men's, his Heart and Soil package. He takes the men's like, fertility. Because that was a big thing for us of like when we were going to have kids of like, we didn't just want this to be like, all right, let's, we're ready, let's do it. It was like, we need to prepare our bodies and make sure like mentally, obviously we're there, spiritually, everything, but like physically that we were doing everything to, make sure that we're in line.
That's awesome.
The one thing that I always falter on is I don't work out nearly as much as I should. And
I was going to ask. I don't either.
I know.
I don't either. So wait, why don't you like it?
The thing is, I love the act of working out. I feel great when I do. It's an inconvenience. And that's why I need to change it in my mind so that it's not. And
but aren't you doing like chores around the farm?
Yes. So that's where I get my workout. Like I'm like lugging hay around, I'm moving feedback. So I am moving. I'm not like totally sedentary.
Yeah.
Although I do like my favorite way to be in my entire life is like horizontal. I love like at like 8:30 p.m. It's like the gravitational pull is like pulling me down to the earth and I love it. I think also it's gotten harder since we moved farther away and we don't have a great gym where we are. And so I work out here in Nashville. And I have a great gym here, but often when I finish filming the show, I'm just like, I want to get home. I want to go see the animals. I want to go see Alex, whatever. So I don't like actually do it. But Alex is great. And he is, very, very regimented. And
does he wish you worked out? Is that something he's like, come on, Brett?
Yes. Oh, and it's not even like a come on. It is, you need to do this. He's like, because you're going to get pregnant and you are going to probably
That's true.
Yep. You need to have the habits beforehand. And so that's a huge thing for him. So today.
Because you got to work out while you're pregnant too.
Exactly. So today I went and I worked out because last night he had a talk with me and he was like, come on. Like, you got to do it.
Okay, we love it.
He did, yeah.
Okay, so
we always joke he has like these rules for me of like, you're not taking your supplements. This is the rule. He's like, cares,
No,
it's
I
a
love
good
that.
husband. He cares about my health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you get to the office, what time is it? And then what time do you start filming?
So I get down to Nashville around 7:30 usually, and I'll go to a coffee shop. I love working in coffee shops. So I'll go work there for an hour, or I'll just go to the studio.
Is that when you're writing your script for the day?
Yes. Yeah. So I almost exclusively write before the show. It would be possibly better if I prepped it ahead of time. But the thing is, I do prep it. Like, I know the stories that I want, and I pull the big comments, and I pull, the videos and that kind of thing. But I don't actually sit down to like really hash out language and the exact points that I want to make until the morning of, because I like it to be super fresh.
Yep.
And I did the same thing in college. I was always like a procrastinator, but my best writing came from that, where I would have a very aggressive outline and I would know exactly what I was writing. And then I would sit down like 2 hours before and go.
Do you choose the clips that play, or do you let your editors do that also? Or is that also included in your script from you?
No, they pick those. There's sometimes that I'll say like, oh, I want this to jump in, or I'm making a joke and this is what I have in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
They take control of that. Everything else though, I write. I pull the comments. I write every single word that's in the show.
And how long does it take you to film?
It takes me about an hour and a half.
And then do you hang around the office? Are there other things, or you are
Not
done
usually.
for the day?
If I might have other shoots that we need to do if we're pre-recording. If we have like today, I ended up staying down here because I know I had this. So it really depends on the day. But if I just have a 2-show day, which is a normal day, I'll do that. If I'm being good, I'll go work out. And then I will head home. And then after that, Alex and I eat lunch. I do the Lauren Bosnick bowl of meat because Alex is very carnivore. So he basically only eats meat unless I'm dragging him out to dinner somewhere. So our normal lunch is a big bowl of ground beef, like taco style, cottage cheese, avocado, pork rinds, maybe some salsa. And I love pork rinds. We were obsessed with pork rinds. That was like my mom's like favorite snack when I was growing up. It was like Diet Coke and pork rinds.
So you guys eat together, but is he working from home and so he's busy still the rest of the afternoon?
Yes. So he'll like take some time and we'll have like lunch together, which is really, really nice.
And then what do you do the rest of the day?
Like farm chores and that kind of thing, or I'll go and run errands. I have more time in the latter half of the day, so I do most of that farm stuff.
Are you the grocery shopper?
Yes.
And who is the main cook?
It really depends. I want to say me because he works later into the evenings. And so because I'm home, I'll stop and pick up things at Whole Foods, or we love Turnip Truck. It's like an amazing grocery store here. And I'll pick up things and I'll get everything sorted and done. And I'll have dinner ready for him because I have obviously the time to do that. And I'll be able to go out and like work with the cows and feed them. And if I need to be working with like our farmhand that's doing, mending fences or whatnot, I'm able to go do that. Which now things are kind of slowing down because for the last, 9 months, we've been building a lot on the farm because it didn't really have a lot of infrastructure. So there's been a lot of projects that I've had to like oversee when I get home, but now it's kind of slowing down because it's just like, oh, we have all of our fences are done. This is great. Our hydrants are working. So that takes up a lot of the latter half of my day. And then I'll read. I'll start prepping the show in the evening.
What are you reading right now?
I'm reading Caraval. It's the second Caraval. Rose, my friend, recommended it to me, and she is doing a murder mystery next Saturday night that is themed off of Caraval.
Like a party?
Yes.
Cute.
And she's a brilliant writer. And so she has literally written out all of these scripts and we have all these characters that we're going to play, but it's based off of this. So I want to finish the second book in time.
So reading and then you guys have dinner. And then what time do you go to bed?
Ideally, I'm in bed by 8:45.
That is early.
Yeah, I'm not asleep by then, but again, I like to be like the gravitational pull.
Yeah, you like to scroll.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when I do my best research for the show.
Totally.
I get my beef tallow on. I put my my Purely Parsons hair oil in. Shout out to them because I love them. And I like get in my pajamas and I'm like a worm.
Yeah.
Which I know you love. And I'm there and I'm scrolling and I'm reading my book. I'll go through like Slack messages, whatever I need to catch up on. And I'll basically like my Slack messages to myself are like the most insane, chaotic Brett Cooper brain dump because it's like I'm pulling in all the clips that I want to bring and I'm like, okay, this is my point here. This is what I'm going to do. And then in the morning, I'm able to go through that and I have my whole stream of consciousness.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, there's the script. So I do all of that like late at night.
One of the most dangerous ingredients that for some reason is still allowed in American makeup is talc. It's contaminated with asbestos fibers, which cause respiratory toxicity and cancer. And if they tell you it's cosmetic grade talc and so it's free of asbestos, it can still be toxic and carcinogenic. The FDA website states that talc is also exempt from requiring certification necessary for protection for public health. Sorry, but I don't trust these clowns. Thank God we just had an election where we're going to be putting some people to work to fix this. But until then, I love introducing ladies to Adele Cosmetics because they are 100% transparent, holistic, toxin-free as a makeup company, and also made in the USA. Their makeup isn't toxic, and neither are their conservative values. Adele makes their cosmetics in small batches without the use of parabens, synthetic fragrances, or anything else on an ingredient list that's difficult to pronounce. Everything from foundation to mascara to cheek highlighter, and it's all beautifully packaged and toxin-free. A lot of their products even come in glass. Because Adele searches for high-quality ingredients, customers have found that their products have helped to reduce inflammatory conditions like acne and redness, calm eczema, cleanse and restore balance to both oily and dry skin, and keep it hydrated all day long, all because of God's medicine cabinet. I love their potted liquid eyeliner. I've got it on today. Every girl needs to master the cat eye. Get a free foundation color match consultation at AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com. And if you use code ALEX, you're going to get 25% off. That's AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com and use code ALEX for 25% off your order of completely non-toxic natural makeup. You got into law school, then decided not to go. Why?
A myriad of reasons. Probably 2 or 3 main ones. So the big one was I didn't really know why I was going. I went because I didn't have anything else to do, or I didn't think that I had anything else to do. So at that point, I had decided that I wanted to walk away from Hollywood, which seems more dramatic in my mind than I think it does to other people, because it's like you weren't like famous, you weren't doing anything, but I had spent 10 years of my life in this industry.
Sure, yeah.
And that was
your identity.
Yes, and that was my life plan. And I'd already made the decision that I wanted to go more into producing and writing and directing. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years with BLM and COVID and all the politics just becoming just aggressively rampant in Hollywood. Like they were not even hiding the fact that they were so biased. I just could not stomach it anymore. I was working at this production company that I was just obsessed with. I was so passionate. They were, Academy Award winning. They had produced some of my favorite films. I just felt so fed by being there and the stories that they were creating. And in 2020, my job switched from finding great, compelling stories. The whole goal was that the audience was left changed in a positive way. It was not like a hit you over the head, like Christian, uplifting, whatever. It was just that you leave having some kind of hope in humanity or wanting to go have a positive conversation with somebody. Like it's just a tinge of like, we're making some kind of positive difference in somebody's life when they finish watching this film. And I love that. And it was so rewarding to me. And all the films were very character driven. And it switched from finding those stories to aggressively being like, we have too many white people. We need more Black-led movies. The big one was, they were like, we don't have a Native American female lead. And they're like, right, you need to find a Native American. And I was like, what? And I was reading all of these like ridiculous scripts that were fine, but they were ones that we would have never considered other than the fact that they were about a Native American girl. And I was like, come on, guys. And they literally like cut their slate in half. And they're like, we can't do any of these white people movies anymore. We have to do something else. And it just became so calculated. And that was around the time that the Academy had rolled out all of their new rules that then impacted the SAG Awards and the Golden Globes.
That to me, I would assume then that that's why you would want to go get out of this and go to law school.
Exactly. And so that was my like, all right, I'm done. I'm out. And I was an English major. And what do liberal arts majors do when they don't know what they want to do with their life is you go to law school, you take the LSAT. And that made me feel like I was moving my life forward in a way, because that was in the middle of COVID. I was at UCLA, acting was just going nowhere and I wasn't happy. And that was around the time, like every single audition that I was getting was like, she's ethnically ambiguous. I'm like, I'm not ethnically ambiguous. Like, I'm never going to be ethnically ambiguous.
Are you anything? Because I always get, what are you? And I'm like, white.
The only interesting thing is that me and Elizabeth Warren, I have like a tiny bit of Cherokee Indian.
Oh, just a tiny bit. She's more than you.
Oh, yeah. Pocahontas. Dutch. And then my dad's family is like, I technically can be like a Daughters of the Revolution, because I have ancestors that were, that like came over and were in the Revolutionary War. But yeah, a little bit. My mom's family is from Oklahoma, so we have Indian over there. But yeah, I'm white. My brothers have a different dad. My dad is their stepdad, and they have like a tiny bit of African, and that was like the best thing that ever happened to my older brother when he found that he did 23andMe, and he was like, I'm black. And I was like, it was in 2020. I was like, Grace, you cannot be saying that. But no, so that was that just really kind of ruined the industry for me. And so I didn't know what to do. And I needed something that was driving me forward in this senior year of college because I wasn't working. I had intentionally taken a step back from acting. Again, yeah, the ethnically ambiguous. So I wasn't getting any roles. I had also at that point had said, I'm not doing nudity. I'm not doing sex. And that was a big, like, what are you doing? You're cutting yourself off from so many roles. I was like, well, sorry. And then maybe you should change what you're doing because everything is super promiscuous and I'm not interested in doing that. So I felt like I didn't really have a home there, tried production, just felt very beaten down, had lost a lot of my friends because of politics in Los Angeles. And so, I thought, let me try to change things. Let me go to law school. And I thought maybe I could be an entertainment attorney, but then I was like, I don't really care about that. What I care about is politics and culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've shot guns my whole life, very pro-gun family, brothers in the military. So I thought, okay, I'll be a 2A attorney. Like, I really care about the Second Amendment. That was a big part of me growing up and being confident as a young woman and being like, I would carry in California, which is like, it was totally illegal. But I would like walk through Skid Row to my job and my mom was like, yeah, have your gun. So I thought, okay, well then, that'll be meaningful. That'll be good work. I can at least like feel like I'm moving my life forward in some kind of, productive way. Maybe the Hollywood thing will come back. Maybe they'll even out in the next year, maybe when COVID's over and the vax mandates were a big part of it. And so, yeah, I took the LSAT. I got into some great schools. I was planning on going to Pepperdine because I thought that would be, the least insane of the California schools. And then my mom decided that she was done with California, understandably so, in 2021, and she bought a farm in Idaho. She finally did it. Like, her divorce had been finalized. She was going to get her farm. So she moved there, and I realized, like, I have no reason to be in Los Angeles. I don't want to act anymore. And so I followed her to Idaho. And on the last day possible, I applied for University of Idaho's law school. Got in. I was going to do a dual JD MBA program, so I would come out with my master's in business as well. And so again, it was all just like, I got to be doing something productive. I graduated from UCLA. What am I doing with my life? I was working at Trader Joe's. I'd been working at Trader Joe's for 5 years at that point. That was my I love Trader Joe's. Which is so unfortunate because everything there is just like riddled with seed oils and terrible crap. So I can't really shop there anymore.
It's still processed food, but they have great prices on eggs and produce.
They do, and produce, yeah. So I've been working there, and so I went to Idaho with her, and I got a job being a waitress at a steakhouse there. Super fun job. Genuinely loved it, loved being a waitress. And at that point, I was doing like social media videos for PragerU. I was a Hazlitt Fellow at the Foundation for Economic Education, so FEE. So I was doing like economic journalism for them and was doing some social media. And then I had gotten a job at Young Americans for Liberty. And I was like I think my job title technically was like marketing strategist, but I basically did a lot of different things. They had me copywriting all their fundraising emails. I would do social media for them. I would help come up with a social media strategy. I was like the only girl on the team. So I was like, all right, you libertarian men, let's like figure something else out. We need to be like more female dominant here. I was doing all of that and was planning on doing that as I went to law school. And I was speaking at Freedom Fest, which was held in South Dakota that year. And I was speaking about homeschooling. And through FEE, they had invited me. And a friend of a friend had a couple of constitutional lawyers that were there who were speaking. I was like, this is great. I'll be able to go talk with them. And another friend of mine who was there also was going to go to law school and do that. She's actually in law school now and is pursuing that. And I was talking with them and they talked to both of us. And they walked away from it going like, your friend should go. That's exactly what she wants to do. There's no reason for you to go. You should not go. You're not passionate enough. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to fight for 2A. And they said, you are going to go to school for 4 years because it was a dual program. You're going to put your life on hold for 4 years. You're going to go into debt. There are too many lawyers. We don't have enough jobs for lawyers right now. And because of unsubsidized student loans for grad programs, basically every university and its mother has created a law school. So we have an influx of these JD students coming out. There's not enough jobs. Constitutional lawyers make basically nothing. Obviously, their jobs are very important, but they make basically nothing.
Right.
And they said to me, it's not that you're not smart enough or whatever, but you're making a name for yourself in politics and culture. You are doing videos. You are getting invited to speak places. You're writing these articles that are going viral. You're going to stop all of that because you won't be able to continue it. You won't be able to work while you're in law school. For 4 years, go into debt. And he said, you can do everything that we do as constitutional lawyers except sign the briefs. All the advocacy work that you are really excited about that we're doing, the testifying, the social media campaigns that we do, you can do all of that except sign the briefs.
Right.
And it was like a light bulb moment. And so that mixed with the financial implications of it.
You just thought content creation.
Sort of, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I then realized it wasn't even like content creation. It was just like, okay, how can I because I hadn't even really thought about like being an influencer or creator. And that way I was just like, all right, well, I can just keep this going wherever it takes me. I don't really know what that'll be. I think in my mind, I was just like, I'll just kind of like move up in the ranks at Young Americans for Liberty and like run a conservative nonprofit, I guess, or something like that. And the Daily Wire slid into my DMs and they said, we've seen your videos. We think you're really cool.
This is what happened with me in Turning Point.
Really?
Yes, they slid into my DMs. But they had no production department. They weren't doing daily shows.
That's so funny.
So they messaged me thinking I could just be an influencer or something. Yep. And I didn't know what that was because my whole career was in radio. Yep. So if somebody's like, we should work together, I only know like doing shows. Yep. So it's like, great, I have a show idea because I was trying to get out of radio because I was openly conservative and it was just becoming super contentious. Yep. And said I want to do this pop culture show, and then the rest is history.
It's very, very similar because I had done a pilot that I had like shopped around to like the nonprofits that I was working with, and they were all like, "Oh, we don't really get it." And it was the format of comment section. It was like reading comments. It was very punchy, lots of memes, but I had thought that it would just focus on education. It's like, that's what I care about. Obviously, I was homeschooled. I had just gone through, higher ed. I just went through this law school thing. I was like, we need to we're going to be radicalized about this. It's going to be great. And I was like, I'll focus on, educational stories and the chaos in the educational world. And it was pretty, narrow-minded, but that was just like the world that I was living in. And they actually never saw the pilot because legally they couldn't accept pitches. They were like, please don't show us. But they had an idea and it just happened to be very similar. The format was very similar. The team that brought me on, it was very cool. I think a lot of people assume that it was like, the Daily Wire suits being like, let's have like a young, 18-year-old girl do the show. But it was all people that were my age. They were all like 21 to 24 who were at the company, who were working on Ben's YouTube and we're having him do, funny YouTube videos. We're going, there's a need for a new voice here that's younger and for content that we would actually watch. And a lot of them were young men of like, we want somebody that's like, hitting these stories that the guys aren't going to hit, that is in a shorter, like bite-sized amount of time that like young people will not, because so many young people don't want to listen to long form content. So really making it directly for them. So it was created like by Gen Z for Gen Z, which is really cool. And obviously like my audience spans many generations, which I love. And I'm grateful that so many people can extract value from it, but we created it for people like us in mind, like the team.
So did they already have the idea, like we want to call it the comment section? Like did they have that stuff ironed out?
Yeah, they had the name and they had the concept.
So once you were hired, how much tweaking to the format did you do?
Yeah, I was able to go in and we built the set for me. Like they basically said, I think it was like $10,000. They're like, here you go. Here's $10,000. Here's you and your little team. It was like a bunch of like social media coordinators and people in marketing. They're like, you go try this out and we'll see if it works. And Jeremy's famous words were like, I don't get this show, but I think somebody else will. So try it. We had no big marketing push behind it, did no paid advertisements for it, nothing. They were just like, let's see how it works. And so we scrounged together this set. We created the whole thing, did tons and tons of pilots and different trials. And at first, they really only wanted it to be pop culture. And I was like, that's not, because again, I wasn't on social media as a kid. I didn't watch TV. I was like, who am I to be talking about pop culture? Like I wasn't even raised around this. I was like, I'm an intellectual. And so we kind of found some middle ground. Like my first episode was reacting to Biden's State of the Union. But it was in a fun and lighthearted and comedic way. And then as the show grew, more and more people wanted more pop culture things. And so because I just didn't care about it on a surface level, my whole angle, and I know you do this as well, was like, okay, well, if everybody cares about these pop culture stories, what can I do to extract meaning from it that will make your life better? So if we're all going to be sitting here and we're all going to be scrolling, we're all going to be on TikTok, we're all going to be watching YouTube, we're all going to be like looking at these celebrities, doing award shows, what subliminal messages are they sending us that we can actually like take and understand and talk about? And that probably comes from my like academic background. If I had just been in the liberal arts where we just sit around and we, analyze a passage for days on end. But it's like we can do that with social media. And that actually got me excited about social media and pop culture. I was like, this is great because I can meet people where they are.
Honesty moment. Yeah. How long did it take for you to feel burnout?
Honestly, it was right when I went to Budapest.
Yeah. And that's probably good that you had a little bit of a sort of kind of a break.
It was not even a break because we were still doing the show full time. And that was probably the hardest I've ever worked. But my environment changed, which was great. And my routine was totally turned on its head, which was very, very needed. And it had just been go, 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 go. And there was like, we couldn't really make adjustments to the show basically because they were like, this is like insane. This like, you're so famous now and we have so many, like, don't change a thing. Just like keep going. And I was like, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
And I'd been traveling a lot last year. I literally was gone more days than I was home in 2023. And so I had been doing a lot of pre-recording of the show and just trying to keep up. And so going to Budapest, it gave me a chance to reset, have some distance, got to explore a new city. We got engaged, got to spend great time with Alex. I got to spend great time with Reagan while we were there, where we really got to like just be one-on-one with each other. And we both love this show so much. We love this format and go, okay, what do we want this to be? Like, who really are we reaching? Do we want to tweak anything? And then while we were gone, they were actually rebuilding my set. And I was kind of like giving notes from afar.
Yeah. So that's totally the right timing then for all of that to kind of just give you a refresh.
Yes.
Do you see yourself sticking with politics and pop culture for the foreseeable future? Or are you like, no, I think there's other things I want to do?
I'd love to expand. And obviously we are expanding a bit with, I don't want to say we, but my personal content I think is going to change as Alex's and my life changes. And as now we have this farm and whenever we have kids, and I obviously want people to be, involved in that.
You think you're going to vlog your kids?
I'm not going to vlog my kids.
Are you going to post them?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think so.
This is a big thing. I'm very undecided on what I'm going to do with that.
I think that I've just been so black-pilled about the entire thing. And I've covered, oh my gosh, that was another part of the burnout, was in 2023, especially in the summer, it was like the most disturbing episode after disturbing episode of just like, oh my gosh, how many pedophiles do we live amongst? And it just got to the point where I was like, I just can't. So I think I'm, black-pilled from that. But I also think, it was kind of like the conversation that Alex and I had where it's, I made the decision to be a public figure. I came to terms with this. I'm not going to force you to open yourself up to this and open yourself up to attacks. Like, you can if you want to. Like, he knew, going into this, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, but I don't have to subject you to all of it.
Sure, yeah.
Like, that is on your time. And it's like, when I have kids, it's like, they can't consent to it. And while I would love to, because I'm sure I'll like love them and they'll be so cute and all of that, but I'm sure I would love to share that. It's just like, I know I was, I don't think I could consistently, do one thing with Alex, who is, a 30-year-old man, and give him that respect, and allow him to decide when he's going to go out and then have kids and just say, yeah, here you are. Let me just put your face everywhere for a bunch of people to see, especially when I'm kind of like a controversial figure.
So yeah, speaking of controversial, was the most controversy you've gotten into you talking about birth control when the Washington Post admitted they got you taken down on TikTok?
That actually was not the biggest controversy. Like, by that point, people were, especially in my audience, were like, yes, this is great. We're so excited that you're talking about it. It was like a rallying cry. Probably the biggest controversies have always been when I've been talking about the red pill bros.
Don't I know it?
Yeah. That's always
it's like poking the hornet's nest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's it just brings everything in, and half of my audience is like very on board, and then I don't even know if it's the other half of them or if a bunch of like viewers of the content that I'm talking about come over. Actually, the most hate that I've ever gotten, I did an episode. Oh gosh, I usually am able to pull the title off the top of my head. Was it The Man Crisis? Reagan, what was it? It was so bad. They were so angry at me. This was like early 2023. And I made an episode basically going through, I don't want to say the failures of men, but it was where men were falling behind. Men are not dating. Men are.
It was like an
working.
accountability episode.
It was accountability. And it wasn't even like you need to be better. I was just saying, hey guys, this is what's happening. I don't know if you realize that this is happening on a broader scale. This is what's happening. If you don't want this to be you, it's time to take action. And it was, men are not getting their driver's license, which is so insane to me. That is so indicative of like, developmental, I think, problems in our society.
Totally.
Not dating, not working. They're not working out. They're unhealthy. Yeah, it was holding up a mirror. And I felt like it was in a kind way. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited about the episode.
But you're a woman saying it.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah.
Got so much hate. We literally flew Chris Williamson in, who I literally adore. And I had him be on the podcast with me. And I was like, Chris, let's walk through it.
Wow.
I was like,
did you lose a bunch of subscribers? I mean, was it like that type of a fallout?
No, I didn't. I don't think I lost a ton.
Just angry comments.
Just very, very angry. Like, we feel so betrayed. We thought that you were here for us to support us. And I was like, well, this isn't what I said in the Chris episode. And he, I think, held me accountable in a good way, but softly like said, no, she's actually right. And he was like, maybe, they weren't ready to hear it from you and maybe the tone wasn't the best. And I was like, okay, I can, deal with that. But he sat next to me and said, no, guys, she's actually kind of right. And he said, but he spun it in a positive way that I think I could have done better, where he said, men, the bar is literally on the floor at this point.
Yeah.
So you have an incredible opportunity. It's like literally if you just work out 3 days a week, you are ahead of so many men. Like that is if you create a community of young men, if you go to church and you find, 4 good friends and you start, studying the Bible together, if you work out together, you are literally leagues ahead of the majority of young men. And so it made it, I think, more attainable for them and more exciting for them, and also better to hear it from, a fit, successful guy rather than me. But yeah, that was the biggest controversy. Like literally, I remember I've done multiple live streams and people have said, like, do you regret doing that episode? I'm like, no,
oh my gosh.
No, I don't. Because it was all true. It's all true.
Tell me some current health or wellness favorites. Could be snacks, products, habits, books, anything.
Habits still are using tallow. And again, like you said, it works for some people. It does not work for others. Like one of my former producers has terrible, terrible eczema. Tallow was the only thing. After like all of this medication,
raw milk will help.
Worked. Yes, it will. And so tallow is fantastic. Filtered shower head changed the game for my hair. Reagan has the Jolie and she really likes it.
Oh, yes. That's what I want to get.
Yeah. So that is a big one. And then any kind of meat sticks. We are a huge chomps family. I love chomps.
That's good. Little protein on the go type of a situation.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go through what's in your purse.
Okay, let's see.
And tell us what bag it is.
This is a Louis Vuitton carry-all, I think is what it is.
Is it never full?
Yes, there we go. That is it. You know it better than I am. I actually never really cared or wanted a Louis Vuitton bag. I'm not big into bags. I have a bunch of vintage bags for my mom, old Coach bags. But the dots were what sold me because I'm
so cute.
Obsessed with color. This was their 2023 collaboration. Okay, here's Caraval. This is their second one.
Okay, she's reading Legendary, a Caraval
Yes, this is
novel.
the second Caraval novel. It's great. It's it is so cool because the entire premise of the novel is that you can't trust literally anyone. So you are reading the novel and you know less than the characters do.
I love that. That's
which
fun.
is so great. So I have that. This is fun. This is my Alex Starr supplements.
Oh, cute.
Yes. So I have
your husband, Alex.
Yes, my husband, Alex. And I know you have your supplements too. But this is what he, prepares me in the morning. So I've taken some of them. But I have my needed egg support, my CoQ10 I haven't taken yet. I have this gray one is for eye health because I have bad eyes.
Ooh, what's that? I need that.
I don't know. I'll text it. I
have
don't
horrible
even know.
eyes.
He bought it for me and he was like, you're going to go blind. You need to take this.
I need that.
And it helps. And then my magnesium and zinc that I'll take in the evening. So that's all that. My Aura Ring charger.
Yep.
That I lost my Aura Ring. So now the charger just follows me. Sorry for the gentleman. My Cora pads. Because stopping using tampons changed my life.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do not like pads. Blech, terrible. I was like, I don't want to wear a diaper. My periods have never been easier. That mixed with Birthright, it is seamless. Now I just have random pads everywhere.
Okay.
And then I have a Dell lipstick.
They're great.
I wear clock lips every day. So this is a fun one.
That's a pretty one.
My mother-in-law got me this, and this doesn't hurt my head when I lean back in the car.
Oh,
it's flatter.
Yes. I hate that.
It's almost
plane.
it's almost like a French pin in that way.
In the plane, I hate that too with the claw clips. Okay, that's great.
Yes,
that's so
all.
fun.
There we go.
What fun projects are currently in the works for you that we can look forward to?
Pendragon is the biggest one, and I am so excited about that. It was an honor to be able to dip my toe in a big way back into acting, but be with people who I love and adore so much, to work with, the company that I love. And it was just such a refreshing experience to be on this set and to not have to worry about the things that you were saying or what you were representing. And also even more than that, because it's I don't need everybody to, agree with me everywhere, but to be working on a script that has such great values and a story that genuinely, wishes the best for its audience. I think that that's so rare, because I remember being in Hollywood and I would get auditions and I would read these scripts. And I was like, these people are these characters are terrible. They're genuinely terrible human beings. And they're doing nothing for the audience other than just filling their head with garbage. And Pendragon is so different than that. It is so thoughtful. It is theological. It's gut-wrenching in so many ways. So it was such a joy as an actor and a storyteller to do that. And then just as Brett, who's conservative and felt burned by Hollywood.
And what's the summary of what it's about?
It is an Arthurian legend. So it is a take on the King Arthur story, but from the Christian perspective.
And when does this come out and where can people watch it?
That is still to be determined.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
They're still working day in, day out on VFX and coloring. I mean, it's the parts that I've seen and then just being there and watching the dailies and being on set, it is incredible. It is the biggest thing we've ever done. It's a passion project for Jeremy. The actors are just incredible. Like the cast is just amazing. So yeah, people are going to love it.
If you had one remedy to heal a sick culture, and that could be physically, mentally, or spiritually, what would it be for you?
Empowerment. I don't know if that can be
Sure.
But I think so many of our societal ills would be healed by people realizing that they have agency and that their life is not determined by, the consequences of their, childhood or their parents or their current circumstances. It's because victimhood is just so prevalent. And empowerment, I think, is the reason why I'm here today, based on my family and the experiences that I've had and watching my parents' divorce, my brother's death, my brother's schizophrenia. I think that I would be a very different person if I let that define me.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think that if I can offer people empowerment and excitement about their life and knowing that they have agency and that that their life really is their fault, I think that's the best thing that I could do.
That is beautiful. Okay, where can people subscribe to you on YouTube and find you on Instagram?
You can find me at I'm Brett Cooper on Instagram, and then the comment section with Brett Cooper is where I am twice a day.
Brett, thank you for coming on
I'm
Culture
so
Apothecary. I was slated to do this interview for an hour and 20, but it was just so good. I had to keep going. I hope you learned some things about Brett that you didn't know before. I definitely did. Her show is phenomenal, so make sure you subscribe to her and Daily Wire Plus for movies and TV shows without left-wing propaganda the whole family can enjoy. Please leave a 5-star review and tell others why they should listen to Culture Apothecary. We're on a mission to heal a sick culture. Twice a week, new guests bring a unique remedy. That's Mondays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to Real Alex Clark on YouTube and follow me on Instagram at Real Alex Clark. TPUSAmerch.com and code Alex Clark gets you 10% off gorgeous Culture Apothecary merch, the best materials, designs, and quality. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Culture Apothecary.